Hey, welcome everybody to episode 72 of the Corner Blue. I'm Andres Rico and I'm here with Hugo Alvarado. We're just coming off of the first two fixtures of the CONCACAF Nations League, and the Selecta walked away with the 6 points, 6 of 6. So I think that's something positive, and we're gonna break down the two matches and then talk about a little bit of the news coming out of El Salvador with information or what we have on the interim board that is supposed to go into effect somewhat soon. But before that, Hugo, how are you doing, man?
Pretty good. Got to enjoy both games. Sometimes it gets a little difficult, and I'm like rushing at the last minute to find a game. This time I took the time. Very strange matches. I think um, it was a very strange setup to be playing two games in a empty stadium, and then the second match yesterday, I think it was a full house. Maybe there were like 200 people or something like that. So it's a bit strange to watch those games, but yeah, doing well. Not enjoying the heat that we're having here in the Southern California lately. It's been in the 100 degrees, high
Yummy.
90s. So looking forward to the temperature dropping in the next couple of days.
Yeah, summer's wrapping up for us up here on the West Coast, well, in general in the US. So I hope everyone had a good summer as things wind down. But yeah, it was nice to know that I don't have to try and find a link via Twitter or some of the listeners or friends, family, and just being able to pop the game on Paramount Plus. So shout out to them for covering it. And I think the concept in a sense was interesting of just having one venue instead of having to go through the logistical nightmare that it is sometimes of trying to get from different country to country within the region. So I think that is an interesting idea, although the pitch was very small. You'd think, they would pick a better venue or a place with better facilities and maybe even keep it neutral for everyone, in that sense. But it is CONCACAF. They do switch things up as they go. I wouldn't necessarily say they learn as they go, but they definitely switch things up as they go. Um, and yeah, what's your impression on the two games overall? Because you know, um, there's mixed reviews across the board. I've noticed on social media and for me as well, even within the same matches. But what's your take?
Well, first of all, the Caribbean has always been hard for us traditionally. I was trying to, because the general consensus amongst people is that that we're not necessarily playing a very attractive style of football. And so I was trying to go back, at least in the last 5, 8 years, 10 years. Like, when have we really played attractive football in the Caribbean? Um, I can't really remember the
Yeah,
last time we did that.
yeah, going out to the Caribbean, as we've mentioned over and over, is, a hard feat in and of itself. Just getting there, getting the 3 points is even harder. And forget, a nice balanced game or performance. Like, yeah,
Yeah, so in that sense, like, so some, aside from the times that we played at home, but even when we played at home in the last 3 years, it has not been a piece of cake to beat the Caribbean teams. And yes, there were players in Montserrat who are FedEx delivery drivers, construction workers. I understand that. There were also players from the English third division, fourth division. Um, but I think there's something about the Caribbean, whether it's the conditions, the humidity, the heat. I personally feel that the lack of people in the stadium, it really affects psychologically how the players perform. It shouldn't be that way, but I think that naturally, I mean, even if you play as an amateur for fun, imagine playing your Sunday league and you have 500 people cheering. You're probably gonna play better and be excited and have more enthusiasm to play versus playing on an empty stadium where there's you can literally hear every touch of the ball. That part I think plays a role. The smaller field, although I do think it was probably within the minimum measurements the FIFA requires, but it's more. Um, the first game, I thought some of the things that I rescued that I liked. Well, first of all, focus on the task at hand. We got 6 points, 2 games, playing as visitors. So there to begin with is like
It's a very
uh,
optimistic way of looking at it.
we I mean people are gonna hate me for this, but we should be happy and satisfied. I'm not saying that we should be celebrating and saying that we're gonna go to the next World Cup just because we won this last 2 games. But let's not forget where we're coming from. So that's where I go back. I mean, again, this is just observations. I'm not really analyzing anything. With Hugo Perez, I think we can probably all agree that at least in the last 5, 6, 7 games that he had, the team, and we talked about this here, the way we were playing was very attractive. And then, towards the final 20 minutes, we would like run out of gas or something, or we will miss opportunities, or we will make a mistake in the back line, and then we will end up losing the games. And what was the argument from people, from some people, which is true to a certain extent? Football is about results. So if we look at it from that perspective, then why are people unhappy with the last 2 games where we won 4-1 the first match and 2-1 the second match as visitors? We have perfect track record right now in the Nations League, and yet we're not satisfied. So I feel like there's always going to be something to criticize the way we do it, whether we win or lose. I understand that what I want and what everybody wants is the 3 points and playing a very good, beautiful game. Yes, that's what we all want in an ideal world. And obviously that didn't happen in these 2 games, at least not consistently. But I think in the first match, there were things that I really liked because some of my concerns were going back to the empty stadium. How is our team going to try to stay motivated to pressure and win this game? And I thought that the first maybe 25, 30 minutes, I really liked the high pressure that we were doing. We were pressuring really high up. We were not really giving them spaces to create anything. And
And you're
that's
talking about
another
the
observation
Bonaire
that
game?
Montserrat, the first one,
Yeah,
the first
defensively,
game,
they pressured up. But
we
you,
pressure up. Our
yeah,
forwards and our midfielders were really that we had a really high line, which at the end that results in the other team not being able to have possession of the ball. And those are some of the things I really enjoyed about the first game. And then we had our moments where we didn't do so well with that. But I saw some interesting things, some good combinations on the left side at moments, different times of the game. I thought we had some good touches there where Larin uh, combined really well with other players on the left side. And then Bonaire was a a different story. I think first of all, Bonaire pressured us more. They do have more individual players that have more talent, and it was a very choppy game. I think if I would just resume
Both
it
of
to
them.
one thing, the first half was very choppy for both teams. We didn't have possession of the game of the ball. They didn't have possession of the ball. There were a lot of long passes. It was not a very nice game.
I think when it comes to the Caribbean away games, you just have to grind them out. And that's something that we've seen consistently where there's all these different factors, and then it just translates into these grind out wins, not aesthetically, pleasing in any way. It's those games that you're just there to see what the final score is at the end, and then get over it, turn the page, and move on to the next fixtures. I think the first match, it was interesting to see, you know, playing with five defenders. And I think that's why in the first half, yes, they pushed up very high, but in terms of the attack, we weren't doing well on the ball. The team played very disjointed, and as we've seen throughout the last couple of years, we were lacking that brain, that 10, or someone just to kind of handle the tempo and help with the build up to the attack. And that switched in the second half once Doniga, tweaked the squad and put in players like Santa Maria, um, and Jairo as well. Um, and the goals that came in the second half, it was interesting to see that it was long balls that people were making the right runs into the final third, which is something that we've been lacking for a while, is that last touch, getting assists, scoring, but getting those touches into the final third, albeit the long ball or through centers. So it was good to see some of those passes going in. I remember Tereso making a run down the right completely out of nowhere. Like it even shocked the announcers where like there was just no build up to anything going on in the match. And all of a sudden Tereso makes that run down the right line. And instead of passing it, he takes it on himself. Um, so that match, at least there was a change in the tempo. And I think that's something we've seen with Donia, where he'll throw something out the first half and then he'll tweak it. And usually he puts in players that can touch it around and change the dynamic of the game. So I think that's kind of something that I've noticed from him. Because with the five defenders, we weren't doing anything with the ball basically. Second game, look, Bonaire's home, and they've tied us, within the year when it was supposed to be this match of, ending the winless streak. Um, but they're aware of the bigger fish. Like in CONCACAF, there's always the bigger fish. And in terms of Bonaire, we have a target on our back for them in a sense, especially when they're playing a competition that they can try and make that jump and start to play teams outside of the Caribbean and start developing their own program. And if you saw their Twitter, the national team Twitter after they tied El Salvador 0-0 in that friendly match, that infamous friendly match, they celebrated it because it was a huge stepping stone for them. And they mentioned, oh yeah, you have a country of 7 million, you've gone to two World Cups, blah blah. We just tied them. That lifts our program up. And so that's the perspective of teams that, are from smaller countries, have smaller populations, um, and they're going to be gunning for the next step up, and that is El Salvador and the rest of Central America in terms of looking up the pyramid of CONCACAF. Um, and so they came out to play. And like you said, unlike Montserrat, these guys had a couple players that had speed, had some football IQ, had some touch that kept La Selecta on its toes during certain moments, especially, down the flanks. Or their 10. Their 10 had a pretty good touch on the ball and worked on distributing. He ended up getting a goal at the end of the game. So it wasn't an easy match. I wish it could have been easier for La Selecta, but this team is still in a transition mode, unfortunately. I think they're still trying out pieces, and I'm gonna be stubborn and die on this hill, but I feel like you need your core 11, whether it's in the Caribbean, whether it's at home in your Cusca against the US, you need your core 11 or people that are playing off of each other and just choosing a style. And unfortunately, El Salvador has never been able to play the same at El Cusca when they go play in the Caribbean. It's just, it doesn't translate. So it's really hard to get a sense of where this team is at based off of these two fixtures. And we're going to have to wait until next year once, friendly matches occur, once and if this team qualifies for Gold Cup 2025 to truly see where they're at. And we got qualifiers in June as well. So that's the only reason I'm a little skeptical or concerned coming out of this match window is okay, we got the 6 points, but where are we? But despite that, 6 points is huge. And we're moving into October, November for the next Nations League fixture, and we're gonna have to aim for being the top of the group if we want to make it to the Gold Cup. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I think I think the November games are going to be at home. I think. I think we're gonna start seeing some improvements by then. Every game is different. I mean, if we go back to the Inter Miami game, I think we saw some very interesting things, and it's just a different atmosphere when you're playing at a big stadium with a lot of people. I'm not saying there's going to be a lot of people in November watching the Nations League, but it's just a different vibe. But yeah, I mean, if we look at what happened on the field, there's sometimes we don't like those long balls. You know, el pelotazo. That's how it appears. And but we haven't heard the coaches saying that. And the thing is that sometimes that's what the coaches want. Sometimes in the analysis of the match, there has been a weakness that has been spotted on the rival, and where their center backs perhaps are slow or they get distracted easily. So when you see a team kind of just doing what we do, where we just pass the ball in the back line back and forth, and suddenly we throw a long ball. Sometimes that's what the team is trying to do. That's depending on the rival. They're trying to have them come out and push, and then leave spaces for our center forwards. It could, again. I'm not saying it was beautiful or that I'm saying, oh, great, we did that, but sometimes that's part of the plan too, and not letting the other team create opportunities. That is also part of the work that the team is doing. Would I like to see a team that plays better, that has more rotation of the ball in the midfield? Yes, I agree with you, Andres, that I would like to see more of a creative player in the midfield. I think that right now we are playing with at least for this two games, and it could very well be that was based on the type of team that we were playing. But the three in the middle, I feel that they're very similar and more defensive minded players. So they play a little bit more direct, less holding the ball, less creating spaces. And I think that that's part of the reason why in the past, when Pablo Puñet has come in, we've noticed a difference, because that's the type of player he is. And yes, I do wish we could have a little bit more of that. And I think we saw a glimpse of how the game changes when you put a player like that in the mix in this last two games. When Santa Maria goes in, things switch. If you saw yesterday, I don't know if the formation changed. I really didn't notice that. But there were moments where Santa Maria was dropping closer to the back line to get the ball from the back in the last 10 minutes or so. And I do feel that a player like Santa Maria, like Punyet, um, who tend to um, hold the ball a little longer and create more touches, look for spaces. I think they just changed the game. Um, and at the moment, even in this call up, if we look at it, I don't think we had those type of players other than Santa Maria. Everyone else is more like if you look at Cartagena, Martinez, um, Landeverd. Uh, they are players that are a little bit more, more of a defensive minded uh, players that do give you that muscle that you want in the center mid when you're playing against teams that are more physical, faster than you. But I do think that we could use more of the Santa Marias of the Amando Moreno. Obviously, Puñet is out for a while. I think that when Enrico recovers, I think that he can be a great addition to this team because of the nature of the way he plays. Even if you put him in a formation like that, his nature is more of a creative, attacking minded player who likes to hold the ball, to look for players, whether it's moving forward or even moving back when necessary, to have a little bit more control and control more of the pace of the game. Um, that's probably my observation in the last two games.
Yeah, I think if he's gonna play with the three in the back line, you gotta use five midfielders, man. Like, don't put five defenders. Like, that's just limiting, your options going forward. I get it if you want to like park the bus, great, play with five. But you can't do that against Montserrat. You can't do that against Bonaire. So I think that's figuring out his mid, and I hope he does that because it is a little disgruntling, to put it lightly, to see five defenders playing back. Like it was interesting seeing, what was it, Climaco and Larin and wait, I think if I'm not mistaken, yeah, Climaco, Larin, and Nelson playing at the same time, wasn't it?
No,
Again,
no, Nelson subbed Larin in the first game, and then
uh,
Larin went in for Nelson in the
okay.
second half.
But it just
Yeah.
seeing like Climaco and Nelson like at the same time on the same flank, it's like, come on, man. Like you need someone with a little more offensive capabilities. And I feel like, when you play with the three back line, yeah, you're gonna throw Climaco towards the left. But if you're gonna play like a four back line, you could play Climaco or Nelson Blanco, either or, like they're competing for a spot. So it's just interesting to see both of them playing at the same time. Um, so I mean, this is what these
But
kinds of
remember,
matches are. Uh-huh.
I know you probably know this, but remember that under Doniga's style, we have three central defenders, uh, which would be Cruz, Climaco, and Cibrian in the first game. Then those are your three defenders, and then Larin and Tomás, is it Tomás? No, the
Tereso.
right back, Tereso, perdón. And Tereso, technically, they are midfielders, they are wingers. So I hear you that
Well,
that a play.
he played with like the back five, but then he also put a defender. He put Nelson as like the winger on the left side, like not the fullback, but the one that plays in front of the fullback.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That under the his formation, Nelson is not a defender, nor is Larin. They are wingers in the formation that we're playing. Yes, they help in defense when needed, but it's not um it's not theoretically it's not a line of five. It's a line of three. It's three defenders. It's not five. It's not 5-3-2. It's more of a 3-5. Um, so so yes, I hear what you're saying that in the way that we're used to seeing things, Nelson is a defender. Under this formation, he's not. He's a left winger, and yes, he's more defensive minded. So you get less of that player that will take on 1v1 because that's not really what he's used to doing. It'll be interesting to see if we had a player who is more of a left winger, or like let's just theoretically, let's say Josh Perez playing there on the left side instead of Larin or or Nelson Blanco. Josh doesn't really defend much. You're gonna get a player that's going to provide more going forward, but not really much defending. So yeah, it's almost like I see what you're saying is a line of five because it almost is, but it's not at the same time.
Oh yeah, well he wasn't attacking. That's the thing. Like the only
Yeah.
one of the wingers that was attacking or that would move up was Tereso. And then he'd get caught sometimes too far up, you know? So I think that's, if anything, these are the matches where you're gonna try out or keep giving minutes to Tereso. You're gonna keep giving minutes and trying out different pieces, um, like Nelson Blanco, like Climaco, Larin, who's gonna be the owner of that flank moving forward. Because Larin has, he had been absent for a while due to fitness, other issues, etc. Tamacas is injured. Um, and then one other positive in terms of trying out, right? Because we've mentioned playing for the national team is like making that jump to hyperspeed. And sometimes it translates from the local league, and many, many times it doesn't. But if anything, one of the main points or storylines that we get out of this window is seeing Emerson Mauricio get, two goals, one in each match. It's been a while since we've had a nine from the domestic league performing for the national team. And, basically the only guy that goes with Emerson Mauricio leaves Brian Hill on the bench, whether it's injury, internal issues, we have no idea, technical decision, we have no idea. But it was interesting and almost refreshing to see a nine that is performing well for his club, for the local league, then got some goals for the CONCACAF Central American Cup, translating immediately into goals for La Selecta. Because I got lucky the last couple of weeks when that tournament was being played. I got to watch. They've gotten coverage here in the U.S. and broadcast here in the U.S. I've been able to watch Alianza Águila play in the local league, but also in that tournament. And I'm not gonna lie, it was interesting to see the pace of those matches. It wasn't as slow as I thought they would be, and the performance of Alianza and Águila was pretty interesting. And one thing I've seen with Emerson Mauricio is that he's pretty decent at making his runs. He knows where to be, and in Alianza, he gets fed all the time, whether it's on the ground, touching or build up to the final third. But they also use a long ball a lot on that team, and you saw similar plays that happened for Alianza, um, with the long balls into the box and him being able to convert. So I think that's one of the interesting storylines of this window is, seeing a player from the local league, a nine, get those two goals while they've been on a hot streak in their other tournaments. And then the other story is the other side of the coin where, what's up with Brian Heed? Why wasn't he play? We haven't heard from the coaching staff what the situation is there. And, things have been, yeah, we'd like to see consistency, or it took so long to get a player like that to suit up for the national team. It'd be interesting to see the rationale behind the exclusion from getting any minutes. Um, and what other storyline? Yeah. Do you have anything to add to that before we move on?
Yeah, I agree with you. For me, Emerson is not the most exciting player to watch, honestly. Now, I'm not saying he shouldn't be there. He proved to be an effective player, and you need those players. Um, so yeah, I mean, like you said, I think he almost reminds me of Rugamas. With Rugamas, there was a struggle because he was scoring goals in the local league, and sometimes he would go to the national team and play against the islands and score goals. But yet, there was another player that would do a little more, in other areas, in other aspects of the game. Um, I don't know the heel, why didn't he play? Because most of us would probably think that he should be our starting forward. But
Yeah, because he hasn't come off the
because we don't have
bench. Yeah, I
we don't
don't
have a
think he's.
player like him. Honestly, we don't. With those characteristics, we don't have it. But yes, I think Emerson is a very nice addition to the team. It's always important when a player can do in the national team what they're doing in the local team. And at the end of the day, that's how you earn the call up to the national team, by doing what you do in your club, and being able to transfer that to the national team, because we've seen, like, Ferman was the top goal scorer in the local league, and he will go to the national team and he will struggle.
Yeah, it wouldn't
Or
translate.
right. And then there's the other guy who's now playing for Metapan. I can't remember, the one with the long hair, who was also a top
Argueta, if I'm
scorer.
not
Argueta,
mistaken.
exactly. And then national team, not so great. So Emerson has proven that he can do, at least with the islands for now, he can translate what he's doing in the local league to the national international competition.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed with him is like he's just a little more orthodox than the other guys that you've mentioned. Like just the way he runs, the movements he makes, the runs he makes, he knows where to be. And then on the ball, his movements are fluid, are very orthodox, rather than just seeing someone kind of make interesting movements and get lucky. So I think that's the one thing that stands out about this guy so far is like the ball's in the air, he knows how to touch it and get it in goal, which is something that, isn't too common in nines. The guy's getting a chance in his club, which isn't common for El Salvador. So if anything, it's something to watch, and hopefully he'll keep developing, and we'll see if that continues to translate for the national team. But of course, it's always a good dilemma when you have more options per position. The more stacked we can get, great. But I think um if anything from the two performances, and like I said, it's hard to gauge. The big question marks are the back line. Who's gonna be the center back duo or trio? Who's going to be able to step it up on the right wing? I think we have plenty of options on the left. Um, and yeah, who's going to be the 10? Are we gonna be creative or just be direct? So I think those are the questions to see. A lot of questions, but I wanted to mention that the fixtures coming up. Um, let's see. Let me get the fixtures. So the four matches to close out the year for the Nations League, October 10th against St. Vincent, and then we play them again on the 13th. Then a month later, in November 14th, Bonaire visits El Salvador, and then El Salvador closes out against Montserrat on November 17th. So four more matches, four more grinders. We'll see what the results come from that. I hope we get more answers to some of these questions, but I don't think we're gonna be able to truly see the answers until, the following year. On top of that, the interim board, their tenure has concluded. News came out that FIFA and CONCACAF were going to select slash impose a new interim board, which will be conducting business up until early next year. So I think it's until April, right? April or February, if I'm not
I think
mistaken.
so. Yeah.
And then by
It'll be six
then,
months.
yeah, by then the hope is that elections will take place and the next elected board will start its tenure after this whole dragged out process of getting the bylaws of the FESFUT to comply with the laws of the government in El Salvador. So it seems like we're getting a little closer to the end of that tunnel, and hopefully that brings the opening of the possibility to outsiders being able to, you know, be candidates to be a part of that board. People from the outside with different ideas to possibly try and get into the board and bring some much needed change to the federation and football in general in El Salvador. So I think with that, we're gonna close out. We're gonna be back once again once activity um, opens up again next month. But thank you to everyone for checking in, grinding these matches out, because as fans, I think these are like the hardest ones to watch. No lie. Like you mentioned, empty stadiums, the commentary on the broadcast. But despite that, at least we got to watch it, right? That's the main thing. We didn't end up with
Yeah.
viruses on our computer or uh, random ass porn popping up from watching Roja Directa. So in any case, thanks to everyone. Remember, we're on social media, so give us a like, follow us, always hit us up. Leave us reviews on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and hopefully within the next 6 months, maybe we can get to 800 followers. That'd be sick. In any case, appreciate everyone. Well, thanks for hopping on. I know you've been busy, so I appreciate you hopping on the mic and recording another episode. And we'll see you guys next time. All right. Have a good one.